Give me a yes if you understand that. Okay. So given that that's true, here's what I thought about today. It's a subtle point, and I want to make sure I make it clearly because it can almost sound like something I've said before, but it's deeper because I literally had this epiphany on this today. Your mental health is deeply connected to your ability to just get along with other people. And I was actually thinking about myself and how to better who I am. And I thought about times. Let me know if you let's have a confessional real quick. How many of you have ever had a situation where you burned a bridge with a person because you were overly emotional? How many of you maybe have a relationship that you think about a long time ago, maybe some girl you loved and y'all had a bad day and you said something you could never take back, or maybe you had a friend and your feelings were hurt, and because your feelings were hurt, you ended that friendship and you've regretted it ever since. Or maybe you've been in business with someone and something went wrong, and because you didn't know how to deal with it and your emotions got elevated, you made a drastic move where you're like, damn, if I could have really thought about that, I wouldn't have done that. Right. And well, here's what I want you. Okay, so here's what I want you to understand is that that kind of compulsive thinking, that kind of highly charged emotional reaction, number one, it happens much more frequently in heavily traumatized people. Heavily traumatized people, once they're in the middle of the trauma, it's almost like being emotionally drunk, and you just kind of go off. And maybe again, deep down, it might be because you are dealing with your fear of abandonment because your dad left when you were 5, or your mother never loved you, so when that woman acts like she's gonna leave or is mean to you, it just triggers you or whatever. And or maybe you alienate yourself because you don't like rejection or whatever it is, right? I think everybody's got these like weird little scars from childhood and stuff, and it can cause you to just overreact to stuff where you like, no, well, no friends. Because really, that's your inner child kind of reacting to something that you're experiencing in adulthood. And children shouldn't be making important decisions in your life. You shouldn't, your decisions are not going to be good ones if they're being made by a child. But that's what happens in again, I'm being an armchair psychologist here. My wife is the one who really studies psychology, but that's what I realized. I said, sometimes, man, sometimes Boyce the child is the one that's reacting to what happened to Boyce the man. And Boyce the child doesn't make good decisions for Boyce. He doesn't. When Boyce the child makes a decision, he'll cut his arm off to spite his face, or whatever they said, cut your nose off to spite your face, right? He'll burn a bridge, or he'll end a relationship when that where it's really something that's not that big of a deal or something that could have been worked through. And I don't want the child making decisions for me because the child makes crappy decisions. The child makes really bad economic decisions. Did you know most studies show pretty much that most of your spending decisions are pretty very emotional. The child does not make good business decisions. The child does not make good decisions as a husband. You get your feelings hurt in marriage. You get your feelings hurt a lot in marriage. And you have to know how to process that. So here's my point. Here's what I'm proposing to you to consider. I think that those who work deliberately on emotional intelligence and emotional maturity are gonna do better in every area of life, particularly in their economics. Because what emotional maturity will help you do is when you find yourself being triggered, you can identify when the trigger has occurred, and you will be able to use therapeutic techniques to work yourself through it so that you don't blow up the building. Do you understand what I'm saying? And the more traumatized you are, the more you need these techniques. And this is what therapists can do for you. Therapists can show you basic things like deep breathing, like how to like stop, like when you're about to say something crazy, how to stop, walk away, take some deep breaths, and spend some time processing it. I can tell you, every marriage has its rough days,